was done with a Polaroid camera with those things, and they had turned yellow over the years, and I was able to have them duplicated and enlarged so that we can actually try to find Dr. King on this. When we take this particular piece on tour to the schools. No, back over here. You have to come back over here. He is at the podium, and the podium is... Well, it was a beautiful summer day in August in 1963, and my father had received an invitation for the churches to come to Washington to march for jobs and for freedom. And he gathered all of us up together, all the congregation, and the other churches all came together. At the time, I was living in Philadelphia. I was all of 24 3/4 years of age, and it was really a wonderful opportunity for us to go to Washington and do something positive. And when I speak in terms of positive, it was going to affect change what Dr. King was doing. And in doing so, I had the opportunity to be there with people of all different faiths and nationalities. It was really like a UN starting in Washington. It was truly a great day. And what made it so exciting for me as a youngster was that it was beautiful to the tune of seeing people clutching arms, hugging one another, just jumping up and down for joy.
I was treasurer of the NAACP at the particular time, and Maceo Turner was the president. We started the effort about 4 months before to get contingent from going to Atlantic City to go to Washington, D.C. Dr. King had a pretty close relationship with Atlantic City. Reverend Matthew Neal was at Crozier with Dr. King. And with Dr. King, we had a lot of good conventions in those days. And when he would come to town, he would tell Dr. Neal to round up the people in leadership, to bring them down. He would like to meet with them for a few minutes. At a certain time, we went down to the Ambassador Hotel. That was one of the most earth-moving things that happened to me, and everyone was there.
It taught me that whatever we were doing in Washington, we had to come back to Philadelphia and other points north and south and do what King talked about doing, and that was working with your local government, working with the NAACP, working with the churches, working with youth groups to form an organization that would really unite America. And it not just united America, but it united the world. They talked in terms of 250,000 people that were going to be there in Washington. But I tell you, there's no question in my mind there were more than 1 million people at that march. It was just so little room to do anything. All you had an opportunity to do was perhaps get to the water truck or get close to the reflective pond and stick your feet down in the pond and try to cool off because it was a warm August day. And just being there just changed my life forever. And it gave me an opportunity to come back home and to work with the youth groups at the church and throughout my whole community and say to them, we have a gentleman who's not a born leader, but he's a God-sent man. And from that day on, it was just a fantastic opportunity to be a part of something. Because for so many years, we weren't really a part of a national movement. It was pretty much what was happening in the church and in our neighborhoods. But seeing people like Harry Belafonte getting behind this march and giving a special event at Carnegie Hall back in 1961, which was 2 years prior to the actual March on Washington. And they raised $100,000 to get Dr. King out of jail. You know, Dr. King went to jail 22 times. It's pretty amazing. And the folks who got behind him were really very serious about being part of the new movement taking place in America. Little wow? From Atlantic City?
It looks like her.
Wow, that would be impressive.
And her daughter's still alive. Her daughter works on the pole.
I'd say all ethnic groups involved in that civil rights march back in '63. But you had groups represented from, Catholic priests and Catholic persons. You had Jewish people. You had uh, college students, and the role of the African American veterans. You know, I'm prejudiced. The role of the African American veteran was an important one in the whole situation because we who came out, see, we were in a segregated army. And one of the most difficult things you can be is a soldier, a black soldier in a segregated army. There's no question about that. See, we didn't realize what was happening. There was something that happened that generated people from all over the nation to go to that march, really and truly. And we got, hanging around. We got there a little late. And but we had fun. We had fun going down. We had fun on the whole march. And I met so many wonderful people, and my mother-in-law, see, my wife, who was a nurse at the time, she eventually became a teacher also, but she was an RN. She went down. She didn't go with us. I went with the boys, and she went with the girls. Really, she went with some nurses thing, but they were in the car, but we went on a train, and we had fun though, really going down there, and we were also proud of what we were doing. And guess what? Most of the guys who went with me were veterans. Educated veterans, teachers, and some of them were involved in anyway, they were professional men. Later, I was able to work with some people to establish a march in New Jersey called the Crispus Attucks Parade. Now, if you know your American history, Crispus Attucks was a man who died in the Boston Massacre in 1770. He happened to be an ex-slave, and he was one of the first people to die in the Revolutionary War, who happened to be an African American. So we named the parade the Crispus Attucks Parade. It was just a parade to get African Americans together to do some positive things. But after King was assassinated, we called it the Attucks King Parade, and eventually it became the Martin Luther King Parade, and then they still have the parade up in Newark. It's not as large as it used to be, but they still have it.